Feels like the first time that we've talked about the new coaching staff here in a while. They took to the microphone today and had some glowing things to say about a couple of players here for the Dirty Birds heading into 2026. Welcome in to Falcons Today by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Moose, and the coaches that we are going to primarily focus on. One is brand new. The other one not so new, but still new-ish. Tommy Rees and Jeff Ulbrich were asked a boatload of questions. I almost said bunch load. I don't know why they came to my mind, but they were asked a boatload of questions about some of the players currently on the Atlanta Falcons. Tommy Rees talked a little bit about Michael Penix. Jeff Ulbrich talked a little bit about the entire state of the defense, and we will touch on all of this, my friends. Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports, and let's start with Rees. Tommy Rees, to be exact. Former Notre Dame quarterback, former Notre Dame offensive coordinator, former Alabama offensive coordinator, and most recently, former Cleveland Browns offensive coordinator. Now, obviously, the offensive coordinator is going to be asked specifically about the quarterback. So they asked him about Penix. And Rees said this about Michael Penix Jr. Extreme arm talent. Tough guy in the pocket. He will stand there and throw the ball downfield. None of that I disagree with. Not one bit. No one denies, by the way, that Penix is a good pocket passer. Not a single person. That's what got him to the league, was his ability to win football games, throw for a bunch of yards, and a bunch of touchdowns from the pocket. But I will caution you, what else is there in his game? Because we have now seen in 2025 and going back even 5 to 6 years, the game can no longer be won at the highest level just from the pocket alone. And I'll give you an example. There are 3 pure pocket passers outside of Michael Penix Jr., in my opinion. Well, Kirk Cousins falls into this too, but I'm not mentioning Kirk in this. 3 pocket passers that really can't move outside of the pocket that well anymore. And those guys are Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, and Aaron Rodgers. Now, these 2 guys notably are old as hell. So that's probably their main reason for not getting out and, being as mobile as they could, because they're older. Jared Goff never has been. He's just kind of been cement feet Goff. So he's kind of made his living playing inside of the pocket. Now, I'm not advocating for Michael Penix Jr. to be Lamar Jackson. I'm not advocating for him to be Josh Allen. I'm not advocating him to have that incredible mobility that you see guys like Justin Fields have. But what he does need is more pocket mobility. Pocket mobility. The ability to slide up, to slide left, to slide right. Because when you are lined up under center, and trust me, we'll touch on that here in just a second, this is what it's going to kind of look like. You're going to have a wide receiver on the left, a wide receiver on the right. You got a tight end to your right. You've got, this is an I formation, but you get lined up under center. That green area is the entirety of the pocket. You have got to be able to move around inside of that green square effectively. Russell Wilson made a living doing this, right? Caleb Williams makes a living doing this. Pocket mobility. That's the next part of Penix's game that has to develop. Because if you stand firm inside of the pocket, you will face blitzes at one point. And then what? You've got a finite area to get the ball off. And Penix was awful against the blitz this year. The statistics prove it. So who are some guys that you can kind of learn from? Well, maybe not Caleb Williams, because he's like the most physically gifted in escaping sacks I've ever seen. But there is one guy that has also had some injury history, and that's Joe Burrow. Now, I'm not comparing Michael Penix Jr. to Joe Burrow. Don't get that twisted. But you can learn from what Joe Burrow is really, really good at. And that's pocket mobility. Because if I bring up pressure when faced, and remember, Cincinnati's offensive line is butt cheeks. They're absolutely awful. You had it. There you go. There, Gage. Joe Burrow was pressured more than 20% of his dropbacks. And yet his bad throw percentage was less than 6%. Why? Because he's finding ways to navigate the pocket. He's finding ways to evade danger, give himself an extra second to 2 seconds to make an accurate, on-time, and perfect throw. That's the tape you got to study if you're Michael Penix Jr. You don't need the tape from Justin Fields or Caleb Williams. Those guys are athletic freaks. We have established firmly that Penix will never be those two guys. But can he be more like Joe Burrow? Can he be more like, maybe not Russell Wilson, but a guy that can move and navigate the pocket well? Jordan Love is another guy that can do this very well. So those are the guys you have to watch the tape. Someone that more closely resembles your game, but also somebody that you can learn from and give yourself that extra second or two. Now, Tommy Rees also then said there are definite benefits to being under center. And that's been something that the identity of Kevin Stefanski's offense definitely has. So we will find out soon enough if Michael Penix Jr. is going to be the starter week 1. Because if we find out that Penix can't go under center, I got news for you. That is a very, very short window of plays that you can run. So it's time to see what Penix can do under center. And again, I told you guys, I'm fine with rolling with Penix week 1. Let him go. But you got to be able to do the things that the other quarterbacks can do in an offensive-minded system. All of the guys that I mentioned in this episode that are not named Michael Penix Jr., all of them can play under center. Every single one of them. So, I'll ask you this question. How many games will Penix get to show that he's the starter? I think until Thanksgiving. So 9 or 10 games, because at that point he'll have what? 22, 23 starts under his belt? I think that's pretty much an adequate amount of time to see that this guy is or is not a franchise caliber quarterback in the NFL. Either way, let me know in the comment section down below. Now, before we continue on with the episode, and trust me, we've got a lot more to talk about because Jeff Ulbrich also talked about the state of the Falcons, I have to tell you about our friends over at PrizePicks. Oh, my friends, PrizePicks is the best place to win real money sports action all across any of your apps. Why? Because PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on all the sports action and win up to 2,000 times your money this football season. So, do yourself a favor. Download the PrizePicks app today. It takes 30 seconds to make a lineup. Very simply put, you pick your player. You're more or less on their stat projections. You watch your money multiply up to 2,000 times your cash this football season on PrizePicks. Do yourself a favor and download it today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It is good to be right. So Jeff Ulbrich said that he has been blown away and is super impressed by the clarity and vision of which Kevin Stefanski's kind of ideology is surrounding his head coaching tenure. And I'll be the first one to say it. I don't think Ulbrich hated Raheem's type of coaching. I just feel like Raheem was a lot more hands-off. Raheem Morris hired 26 coaches so that the coaches could help run the practice. I think Raheem really just wanted to this, we're good friends, I care about you, you care about me, and that's what we're all going to be about as a nice, tightly knit family unit. But the problem is that you need someone that's going to hold your players accountable. You need someone that's going to say, I cannot accept the losing. I cannot accept the blown leads. Now, Ulbrich went on to say that he wants to polish up the defensive roster. So expect more depth on that the defensive side of the football. I can pretty much guarantee you that there's not going to be a major splash signing in free agency on the defensive side of the ball. Now, you might see some smaller signings here and there, but where I do think they're going to go heavy on defense is probably in the draft. And you might think, well, we only have 5 picks, so how are we going to do that? Well, Ian Cunningham, when he first got to Chicago with Ryan Poles, that first draft they did in 2022, they traded down, started with 5 picks in Chicago, ironically, and ended up with 10. So you can pretty much damn near guarantee the Atlanta Falcons are going to trade down in this draft. And I'm very okay with that. I'm okay with that. If you don't have a first-round pick, try and gather up as many third and fourths as you possibly can. So maybe you trade that second-round pick down for more thirds. Maybe you take that third and you trade it down for more fourths. You're going to see the Falcons get very active on day 3, in my opinion. Now, obviously, the elephant in the room right now is that James Pierce Jr. is up in the air with his status about playing for the Dirty Birds, and, we can't really do anything about that right now. So I'm sure everyone's wondering, well, with James Pierce Jr. out, shouldn't we be trying to go after some major big-time signing? And the answer is I don't know. I just think right now you're looking at an indefinite suspension for James Pierce Jr., so who knows? Maybe there is a world in which James Pierce Jr. only misses 10 games or 12 games, but I don't think that's quite likely. Now, if I were to add edge rusher to the Falcons' list of needs, it would probably be lower priority. We have plenty of edge rushers, some of which that we could re-sign tomorrow. We could re-sign Arnold Ebiketie. We could re-sign David Onyemata or Caden Ellis. We could re-sign Leonard Floyd if we wanted to. But high priority needs, you still need defensive linemen. You still need wide receiver help. And again, I would 100% be leaning on some of the players you currently have in the room. Brandon Dorlus is going to have to take another step, and he was excellent year 2. Zach Harrison, same thing. Bralen Trice, Jalen Walker. I could go on and on and on about the players that will have to step up in the absence of James Pierce Jr. So I don't think edge is at the highest priority need. Maybe it's a late round draft pick that we end up getting, but I'm not going to lie. I don't think that's something that everyone's going to be high priority with right now. Marc Raimondi said that Ulbrich also claimed that he is excited to hear about how Ian Cunningham and Kevin Stefanski are building from the front, meaning building from the trenches out. Offensive line, defensive line. That's going to be kind of the identity of the Atlanta Falcons heading into 2026. So I personally expect some offensive linemen to be drafted in this draft class. I personally expect to have some defensive linemen draft, and who knows? There might be some skill position players as well, maybe in free agency and maybe also in the draft, depending on how many draft picks we end up with. So, if you are ready for 2026, do me a favor and smash that thumbs up icon. Make sure you're also subscribed today. These are the 2 free things that you can do to make sure you never miss any of the Dirty Birds content that you so rightly crave. Until next time, Falcons fans, rise up and be cool.